All right, good evening. Welcome. I really appreciate the fact that you're here. I've been doing this for 30 years now, this class, and I've been practicing for 30 years. And one thing I've discovered in all the time I've been doing this is that the patients that show up for this class end up getting better results in their care. And it's all about understanding about what we do and why we do it and how it's going to actually impact your health, and why we mix nutritional therapy with chiropractic, which is unique for many practices. So I'm here to give you as much information as I can in the time, and also answer any questions you have. This is an interactive kind of a class, but there's a lot of stuff that's going to cover your specific condition, and it's going to help you understand what it really means to be healthy. So the first question I pose patients is, what does it really mean to be healthy to you? How would you define health? Any ideas?
Pain-free again.
Okay, I'm so glad you said that, Arash. Any ideas of what it means to be healthy? You're kind of in the health business.
Yeah, well, I mean, you want full function of your body. You want to be able to do things you could do. You always could do.
Right. Really, it's not really necessarily about how we feel, but it's about how we function. Because you can have advanced degenerative disease going on in your body in the form of diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer, and have very little symptoms. In fact, you know what the number one most common first symptom of heart disease is? How about sudden death?
Yeah.
It's heart failure.
Yeah.
And that's the most common first sign that a person has heart disease, is their heart fails. It's not chest pain or shortness of breath or whatever.
Not a heart attack.
It's a heart attack. It's an event, a massive heart attack. And so, in fact, in the last 3 years, I've lost 5 friends, all 50 years old, who suddenly dropped dead of a heart attack with no prior warning. So I'm really passionate about what I do, because we really save people's lives by helping them to make this paradigm shift from a sick care model, which is really, symptom relief care, versus a health care model, which is getting your body functioning at optimum potential, which is every gland and tissue and organ in the body working 100% all the time, or at maximum potential all the time. So pain is what motivates people to come in here, but the patients that stay are the ones that actually do continue to improve in their health long term and do reach that optimum potential phase. Our body is constantly under attack. We're in a constant state of repair. And there's 3 main stresses that cause that condition that we're treating. Do you remember the name of the condition that we're working on with you guys?
Subluxation. Right.
Subluxation is nervous system dysfunction. And there's 3 main stressors that cause it. There's physical stress, and that can be an auto accident or a sports injury, or it can be sitting in front of a computer all day long. That's physical stress. Or it can be driving in traffic, commuting is physical stress. And then there's emotional stress. There's job stress, there's a relationship stress, there's money stress. Today's tax day. That can be kind of stressful.
I survived it.
Yeah, awesome. I know,
you
went through your roller coaster. So, and then there's biochemical stress, and we're all exposed to every one of those stressors. Biochemical stress can be poor diet, addiction to caffeine, alcohol, drugs, prescription drugs, non-prescription drugs, sugar. All kinds of things can cause biochemical stress as well. So we are all exposed to every one of those on some level, and they're always constantly stressing our nervous system. So we're going to talk about how that affects our body and the 5 factors of health. Rest, how important it is to be able to rest, not just get sleep, but get good quality sleep. And nutrition, we're going to talk about how important it is really to eat right, but also to be able to digest the food that you are eating so that you're able to pull the nutrients from the food. Because you can be eating great organic food, but if your digestive system's out of balance, are you going to get the nutrients from that food you're eating if you're not breaking it down? No, you're not. It's going to turn to toxic waste in the body. And we talk about exercise and movement, and then this PMA, that's positive mental attitude, that's on your sheet, if you haven't looked already. And then SNS, this is where I, myself as a chiropractor, comes in, that's sound nervous system. So the first thing I want to talk about is the autonomic nervous system and why I do nutrition and chiropractic together, and that's a unique combination, as I say, in terms of the level that I do here. We balance the body chemistry and we balance the spine as well. And the reason is because the nerves that travel from the brain down to the body are actually a two-way street. There's nerves that go out into the organs, glands, and tissues, and then there's nerves that go from these organs, glands, and tissues back to the spine and back to the brain. So there's constant feedback going on between the brain and the body. That keeps us alive. That helps us to adapt to certain situations to keep us alive. So the autonomic nervous system controls everything that goes on inside of you without you thinking about it. Now, you can have a subluxation in your spine that's choking off a nerve, reducing nerve supply to a specific organ. We know that's true. You can also have an imbalance in one of these organs, glands, and tissues that sends abnormal nerve messages back to the spine and can cause your spine to subluxate. So a subluxation can have a local effect or a distant effect from organ, gland, or tissue. So if we come in and the patient, let's say they have a digestive problem, and they're complaining of mid-thoracic, in between the shoulder blade pain, we can adjust and adjust and adjust that patient, but if their problem is coming from a digestive problem that's not corrected, this spinal condition is never going to stabilize. They'll never really start holding their adjustments. They'll never get stable. So balancing body chemistry, identifying where this problem is, and supporting the spine together is the best thing that can be done for any person's health, to improve the quality of the health and stabilize their condition, help them to get better faster and stay better longer. So there's what we call efferent and afferent nerve impulses that go back and forth from the brain into the body. And you knew probably all about that, didn't you?
Yeah, no, distant past.
On some level.
Physiology course.
Yeah, exactly. So now when you look at the autonomic nerves, remember those are the nerves that control all the organs, glands, and blood vessels. There's two different branches of the autonomic nervous system. There's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Those are two different branches, and they sort of oppose one another. The sympathetic is where your fight or flight reactive side of the nervous system kicks in, and that's designed to help keep you in the survival mode in a dangerous situation, like if you're being chased or if there's something that's come up where you have to react and protect yourself. That's the sympathetic. And then there's the parasympathetic. This is opposing this one, where your body down-regulates, where you rest and digest and heal. So you have to be able to regulate back and forth between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic in order to function. In other words, in order to be able to fall into a deep sleep, you have to be able to down-regulate. In order to digest your food, you have to be able to down-regulate. You can't if you're on overdrive. And you have to be able to, in order to be able to heal, you have to be able to down-regulate. So if a person comes in, and this is very common, I saw it again today, you can be stuck in this sympathetic dominant phase of the nervous system because of several different things. You can have a stress in the body on the nervous system. You can have a biochemical imbalance. The gal that came in today, she was 14 years old. No, I'm sorry, 15. And she's sympathetic dominant. Her whole health system is a mess. Her digestive system's out of balance. She doesn't sleep well. She's depressed. She's got anxiety disorder. She can't even go to school. And this is happening because of this autonomic nervous system dysregulation. And so we've identified through the testing that we do why she's stuck in that sympathetic dominant stage, why she's not digesting her food, and with the nutrition and the adjustments, we're able to kind of reorganize the nervous system, get it functioning so her body can start functioning at optimum potential. So this doesn't have to be an adult issue. I see it in kids all the time, more now than ever before. And remember, I've been doing this for 30 years. So a lot of times a patient is sympathetic dominant because they're mineral deficient. If you don't have proper minerals in your system, your body can't down-regulate. Minerals are natural tranquilizers. They calm down your nervous system. So that's just an example. Digestion is the most common condition nutritionally that I help people with. Most people have digestive issues. And they're treating it the wrong way. In other words, if a person gets heartburn, what do they typically take and do for that?
You would take
Something over the counter, antacid, right?
Yeah.
Well, like a Tagamet or Tums or Zantac, something over the counter. Well, really what's happening when the stomach is supposed to be chemically very acidic to digest your proteins and your minerals. But because of stress, our body doesn't produce enough hydrochloric acid, and diets high in carbohydrates shut down the acid production. So you don't have enough acid, so you keep eating your food. The food sits in the stomach and it begins to be undigested. It rots in the stomach. So the rotting food produces a different kind of acid that causes heartburn, that refluxes into the esophagus, causing heartburn. So you go to the doctor with heartburn, and they put you on an antacid. And what that antacid does is neutralizes the bad acid, but also neutralizes what good acid is left in your stomach. So you continue to not digest your food while you feel better. So is feeling better being better? In that case, it's really not. Because you can feel fine because you're taking Tums or whatever, but you're not digesting your food, and typically patients who have this long-standing digestive issue will develop lower bowel problems like colitis, diverticulitis, irritable bowel syndrome, and then worst case scenario, colon cancer. These lower bowel problems come because of an upper digestive system that's been there for a while. They don't just come on by themselves. It's always secondary. Lower bowel issues are always secondary to an upper GI problem. So what we do is we put the patient on a specific hydrochloric acid product that lowers the pH in the stomach. They start digesting their food, their heartburn goes away, and their energy goes up because they're breaking down their food. They're actually getting nutrients from the food that they're eating. So when you look at this, we just covered the first two topics. It's important to be able to rest and to down-regulate so your body can get into a deep quality sleep. And that's so you can heal. If you can't rest, you can't heal. And then handling the digestive issue really helps with the nutrition. So eating right's really important, but also being able to digest your food is just as important. And then exercise, a lot of people come in, their joints are stiff and there's inflammation in their body, so when they try to exercise, they get more sore. If they try to lift too much, they get more sore. And so the goal is to restore joint function and reduce inflammation so the patient can be more active and do the things they want to do without constant flare-ups. So that brings us to the spine issue, the subluxation. Remember, the subluxation has to do with the spine and nervous system, where a vertebra can be out of alignment, choking off the nerve. That reduces nerve supply to the tissues, causes inflammation locally here, reduces normal motion on the disc that should be there to pump fluid into the disc. If there's no motion on that disc, within 5 years, the patient can start showing disc damage that's visible on an x-ray, where there's compression on the disc, begins to break down. If it's not corrected, over time bone spurs grow. This is a form of arthritis. It's called degenerative disc disease. It's progressive and it can lead to disability, early disability. This is all preventable, just like heart disease, diabetes, and cancer are all preventable. But it requires some level of supportive care beyond that initial phase of care where we're stabilizing a patient's condition. This is over the long haul, we can stop the progression of degenerative disc disease, restore joint function, maintain proper nerve supply to the tissues, again, so your body can function at optimum potential, so it can actually be healthy, not just feel healthy. So patients who have chronic subluxation, and they have it because of an accident or an injury, I'm going to talk about what happens to the soft tissues, the supporting tissues around the spine when there's been a trauma. So if you look at, I'm going to draw just a little picture here of connective tissue, of fibers that are arranged in a crisscross fashion. This is the tissues that support your spine. Soft tissues, collagen fibers are organized like that. And so when there's been an injury, by the way, that arrangement there, that crisscross arrangement, gives those fibers elasticity and strength. It's like those Chinese finger toys. You put your fingers in and you pull apart and they move and then they don't. That's this. This has a certain level of integrity that can be disrupted from an injury. And what happens when it's disrupted is the fibers get torn apart. These fibers get disorganized, pulled apart, and disrupted from a trauma like a whiplash injury, let's say. What happens then, after there's been an injury, the body starts to try to heal this injury. Immediately you get inflammation, and there's cells that come in that lay down this sticky substance to try to hold all this mess together. And then shortly after that, there's actual nerve endings that form in here, in this tissue, that make it super sensitive. So what would you call that glob of tissue? Soft tissue that's been torn, that's healed.
Scar tissue.
Scar, exactly. So this is scar. Okay, so how long do you think that takes to form scar tissue after an injury?
Depends how bad the injury is. I
Well,
don't know.
it only takes 8 weeks
Oh, yeah.
for fibrotic tissue to form around an injured joint. And there is a way to reorganize tissue back to relatively healthy tissue over time. The only thing that can do that, we're talking about the tissue around your spine when it's been traumatized. The only thing that can do it are specific spinal adjustments. And anyone want to guess how long it might take to go from fibrotic tissue back to relatively stable, healthy tissue? Okay, I'll give you the answer. 1.5 to 3 years. So when I give a care plan that's 12 months, it's designed to stabilize their condition and start this process of what's called remodeling, where we're breaking up scar tissue, restoring joint function, and scar tissue is like glue. We have to break that glue up, and that's going to stop the progression of degenerative disc disease. So if a person comes in and they have a disc issue, we're not treating their pain, we're treating the problem. We have to see that patient consistently enough over time to restore joint function and nervous system function, but also to prevent the patient from ultimately being crippled and bent over or needing surgery because of this advanced disc problem.
So can you see this on an MRI or some?
You cannot see, you can see scar tissue on an MRI, I believe, not on a CT scan.
So I mean, can you see the progression to healing?
The remodeling, I doubt it. I
Right.
doubt it. It's a subtle histological change. It's a microscopic kind of a change that's happening with tissues. But what patients do feel and notice over time is that they have fewer flare-ups, they have more mobility and greater strength, and
No pain, I guess.
lot less pain. Yeah. So this is a key component, and this is why I do the kind of advanced chiropractic corrective care that I do. I rarely will have a patient come in and just adjust them 1 or 2 times and send them on their way, because it does absolutely nothing for their overall health picture. My main goal and purpose is to help people, again, make that paradigm shift that's going to save their life. Because our main purpose is to identify the underlying cause, correct the cause so the body can function at optimum potential. And I can tell you there are very few people out there that practice this way, because it's difficult. It's difficult because people want what when they come? They want to be out of pain. They want a quick fix. They want to be able to take a pill or do something quick and be done with it. But the reality is, it ain't going to happen. It just doesn't work that way. So it's really important, and that's why I do this class, and I'm talking to my patients all the time about this issue, because eventually you can have flare-ups even if they're every 5 years, you can have a flare-up. But the problem in between those 5 years is still there, and it's still progressing. It's getting worse, even though you don't feel it. And then eventually those flare-ups are going to start becoming more frequent and more severe. And then if the patient waits too long, the only time chiropractic won't help an issue like this is if they have waited too long and there's too much damage. And in my 30 years of doing this, I've probably had to send maybe 5 people to a surgeon because there was too much damage. I couldn't help them. Sometimes we know right away. Sometimes we know after a couple of adjustments that it's just not going to help them. They need to see a surgeon. But most of the time we can save people and keep them functioning. And I can tell you, I personally have a disc herniation in my low back, L4-5. It's herniated, and I have advanced degeneration because of several major auto accidents I was in. I played 4 years of high school football back in the day when they used leather helmets, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I never played football. I skipped.
Yeah, I'm kidding about the leather helmet thing, just so you know I'm not that old.
Yeah.
But back in the day when they encouraged you to go head on with people, that's what we were doing.
Yeah, it was bad.
And there I have major neck issues and I have major low back issues, but chiropractic has saved me. And it saved my career. I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm in better shape now than I've been In a long time I can cycle 50, 60 miles, no problem. Can do my work here and I'm in good shape. So I try to get adjusted every week now, and I have for many, many years. But I had an MRI 30 years ago, and they wanted to operate on me on the spot because it was so bad. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And
So you don't have any stenosis or anything?
no stenosis, it's a central herniation, it's missed the nerves, it's gone straight back, and that's been a blessing.
No. There's a real good doctor who does stenosis surgeries, Dr. Kuhn.
Okay.
Heard of him?
No.
Really famous.
Stenosis is something chiropractic will not help with.
Yeah, it's a surgeon, yeah.
Yeah, that's a surgical issue. That's not what we're talking about. Few people come in with real stenosis, though.
He usually hits older people.
Yeah, I don't see it very
Advanced
often.
age.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because they don't always come out so well after surgery. Even
No.
it's a big problem. So anyway, positive mental attitude. This is critical. When a patient comes in, and during my interview process, I can tell within the first 10 minutes of talking to that patient where their head's at and if they're going to be a good candidate for what I do, and if they really want to be here and want to get better. If the patient has a bad attitude, are they going to stick with their care? Are they going to stay with it? Are they going to want to hang in there? Probably not. They can have a bad attitude. They can be forced in here by their spouse, which I see once in a while. Or maybe they're not sure about chiropractic. Maybe they have these misconceptions. But sometimes we can help them make a shift, make a paradigm shift. But if they really have a bad attitude, it's really hard to heal with a sour attitude. And then sound nervous system. Your nerves have to be open and functioning in order to heal and get strong. So, do you guys have any questions on this? I've given you a lot of information in a very...
Yeah, now for the exercise part, maybe I shouldn't have told you this, but I played golf last Saturday. I felt pretty good, actually. I didn't have any trouble, and I put ice on it afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I didn't have any problems at all.
Okay, well you're
was
fortunate.
I too early to
You're right.
play, or-
Well, you know, if you would have asked me
Yeah.
at the time, I probably would have said, you know, I'd give it a little, maybe another
or
week.
two. Yeah.
But it's hard to
But I took
keep
a
people
cart.
down.
I took a cart.
Yeah,
cut
and
down
if it's
the-
something that you're used to doing,
Yeah.
then it's less of a problem. If it's something brand new that you're not used to doing, then it would have been a bigger
And
problem.
then my friend picked up the flagpole, so I wouldn't have to do it.
And
You know,
pull
less
the
bending.
ball out of the hole
Yeah,
for
so-
you.
Yeah.
See, I
So we
need something
cut-
like
and I
that.
told him, look, the only way I can play.
Yeah,
I gotta have a cart, and we have to play on a
and you
flat
got a
course.
bit. Yeah.
You know, and so I was very careful not to.
Well, that's good. That's good. I have one guy who came to me. He was literally in shock when he came to me. He had just been thrown from a horse
Huh.
and landed on his rear.
Yeah.
And he literally was in a state of shock. And this is a guy who does very unique horse riding. He does shooting bows, he does camera stuff, and he's really well known in the UK. He does archery from horses.
Oh, wow.
And so he was riding, not holding on, and the horse took a sudden turn and he went flying. And he came in here literally right from that incident.
Yeah.
And he was in shock, but we got him stable and got him adjusted. And he left here and he said, "Oh, I think I'm going to go ride tomorrow."
Yeah.
Seriously. And I think he waited 2 days and he was back on his horse,
Wow.
which I didn't recommend. But this guy's tough and he's used to
Yeah.
doing it, and that's just what he does. So,
So I got a question for you.
yes,
The pills that, remember how we talked previously about?
yes.
The
The
are
nutrition?
those- Yeah, the nutrition pills that I recently started taking.
Yes.
Is that for my back or is that for nutrition to digest the food? Is that?
I would have to look at your file. Do you remember the names of any of the names of the products? It seems to me that we're dealing with your digestion. I think I have you on maybe Zypan, AF Beta Food. I'd have to look at your file, Rosh, but I can answer that
Okay.
when I'm done here. It'll just
Okay.
take a second.
Okay.
In fact, let me turn this off. Any other questions? Okay.